Game Beard. Hi miniature painters, it's time for another basic tutorial. We're going to talk about dry brushing. Dry brushing is a pretty very common painting technique that's very useful. This is really for beginning painters because most of you already know this stuff, but it is essential if you're new, and that's what this video is for. So normally you would start with a nice black miniature, a black primer. Dry brushes very well for highlights and underpainting and stuff like that. But I'm actually going to start with this guy. If you remember correctly, in my primer, I didn't get underneath his pits and stuff like that, so I did painted them like a brick red. Okay, and I need to dry brush this guy. Now, I'm going to break the rules. Normally you would wet your paintbrush, so I'm not going to wet my paintbrush, and I'm going to run into the danger of the paint drying and, you know, the tips. But my paint itself is it's kind of wet, and I don't want my paint to be even more wet, so I'm just going to quickly break the rules, and let's see if this works. All right. Now, dry brushing, you get a little paint on your brush, but then you're going to kind of wipe it off. Oh, see, that's very thin, I could tell. Oh boy, let's see if this works. Not really. This is giving me a very subtle effect, and I like the color because the reference material on this figure is very, it's a very warm brown, and so that's why I wanted to do this. But it looks like I'm gonna, it's kind of working. It's a very subtle effect. Subtle can be good. Get his butt a little. So if I want to get brighter colors, I may want to come back to this guy. Let's see, let's compare him with a non-dry brushed. Let's see. Yeah, actually you can tell it pretty well. The problem with paint that's kind of wet is it paints on instead of dry brushing on. It tends to paint on, covering up a lot more than what you would want normally. But it seems okay for this guy. So this is the dry brush, this is the non. It brightened him overall. What I'm hoping for is an effect kind of like, I hit my camera. I need a better. This I dry brush, and it's only getting on the edges here, it's giving me an edging effect, which is real nice. Okay. Well, I am gonna get my paintbrush wet, and the problem with this is there's kind of a sweet spot when you're dry brushing. You want your brush to be dry, like you don't want no moisture in this thing, but you do need to dip it in water and then get the water out as much as you can, because it can dry in your bristles, and you definitely don't want to get it at the metal, right? So generally I will wet my brush and then dry it. You might even sit it out for a few minutes because it needs to be dry. And so what's going to happen is maybe I'll do two of these guys. I'll do two of him, because the first one, the paint's going to be a little wet, and it's going to stink. It's not going to be very good because it'll paint rather than dry brush. It'll tend to paint. And what I mean by that it's going to cover and not give me the desired effect. But as my paint dries, as my brush dries, so like my second or third miniature like this, it will actually give me a more desired result. And then after about, I don't know, maybe 5 of these miniatures, I'll have to clean my brush again and kind of start all over, because eventually your brush is going to get so crusty and dry that you'll have to clean your brush, right? Okay, anyways, let's see. I'm gonna try this. It's mostly opaque. Okay, let's try it here. So dry brushing is you're barely getting it on the surface. There's a lot of reflection on this model. I don't know. We'll compare them to the other one. You want to brush it off. What I like to do is, you'll see I'll have an edging video. I hate edging. I mean, I like the results of edging, and a lot of, big shot painters, Golden Demon winners, they edge, and I edge a little bit sometimes on models that I really like. It's kind of like a final touch, but I don't like to edge everything. And when you dry brush, it gets on the edge, but it's not as effective as normal edging because it kind of gets the paint a little bit everywhere. It almost does a little too much, whereas edging is more controlled. And if that doesn't make sense, just watch my edging video when I get to it. And but what I can do is I can dry brush this guy, and you can see I'm kind of just dusting him. I got a lot of light on this miniature. It is, oh my gosh, it's hard to see. And he's shiny. That black is shiny. We'll compare him to the other one to see how it looks. Now what I really want is on the interior of these wings, I want to be lighter. I want it to be lighter. So let's see here. Okay. This is like a one-piece model. Meaning, one-piece model meaning I gotta pry the wings apart, but they don't break because he's just one, he's like one mold, or I can't even see if I'm getting it. Whoops. It's all bent now. Let's bend them back. Okay. Okay, let's check them out. Let's compare. Yeah, I mean, you can tell. It's almost too much dry brushing, right? It's almost too much gray. He doesn't look like he's black anymore. Let me look at the original reference. Yeah, he's not black anyways. Good. But what I do is, normally in my technique, I'll go back in, I'll dry brush it, I'll go back in and I'll paint shadows again, like in those parts. He doesn't have a lot of shadows, whereas this guy here. So like I'll go back in and paint these parts black when I'm done. Here you can see it, I don't have to paint them that much, but like I would go back in and paint a little black in there. That way it enhances the dry brushed edge, so I don't have to edge it as much, because I hate edging, right? Like, I love edging. You're an amateur for not liking to edge. I know. Well, I'm not saying I don't appreciate. I think it's the best I think it's the best looking edging. I just hate doing it. Okay, let's see. Let's see if this guy, if my brush is a little drier, my paint's a little drier. Let's see if I can get a better effect on this guy. Oh. Maybe if I had a paint handle, I wouldn't have dropped him, right? I would have had a better grip on my miniature. All right, let's see here. This ain't working that much better. But usually, if your paint is wet and your brush is a little wet, usually it's like the second or third miniature, you get better results. And then, like I said, like the fifth miniature, you have to kind of stop. You have to clean your brush, and then you have to kind of wait and dry your brush really well. It's like finding the sweet spot for the dryness of your brush and your paint. Like sometimes your paint dries a little and it works better. That's why dry brushing doesn't typically work very well on a wet palette. So if you know what a wet palette is and you've tried it, you'll know that, oh, I hit my camera. It was my brush that hit the camera. You know that it's hard to do from paint from a wet palette. Now, paint from a wet palette blends better, which is nice. So I'm not using a wet palette for this. And, we'll have a video on a wet palette if you don't know what that is. They have their purposes. Ooh, I did a little too much on this guy. Okay, well, that's okay. Okay, so let me add a little bit of white. Let me see if I can build this up. See, in fact, I'm not going to use white. I'm going to use this, what is it, Elven Gray? It's like a little bit of blue. Ooh. Okay, let's see here. See if I can even get this paint out. I'm going to dry my brush so that there's not liquid in my brush. Let's see, I'm going to put it here. Get some of this. So this had a little bit of blue in it. My original gray was this. What? Crixbane highlight. It's kind of like a warm gray. So I'm building up to a blue highlight, which is something you may not expect. Normally you'd probably build up from a cool highlight to a warm highlight. I don't know if that was the guy I just did. Here, you stand over there. Okay, let's try this. Let's see if this gives us a nice... My brush is getting dry. I need to clean it soon. Okay, let's see here. Okay, this is pretty bright. My brush is getting dry. It's a little too much, but that's okay. I'm gonna go, oops, ooh. I'm gonna go for it. I'm wiping off that excess paint. This builds up only on the raised areas. You know, the technique for dry brushing is you basically wipe off most of your paint and you kind of dust it on. It's difficult to get everywhere. I'm not going to go crazy, like in between his legs. Some people really are concerned, like, and maybe see, this is one piece model. I could probably bend his arm here, kind of get it in there. A lot of people are really concerned about getting those parts, like they want to get everywhere. Oh, trust me, as you support GameBeard, we will improve our video and lighting equipment so that I won't hit the camera with my brush. I'm so in tune to informing you of my practical painting techniques that I'm not paying attention to the spatial relation of my camera in relation to my model. Okay, oh, I hope I didn't break this wing. It's really bending, like, it's not snapping back. Okay, well, I added a little bit of white here, or it was like a light gray. Let's see, let's compare it now. Let's see. See now, I mean, he barely looks black, right? But I do like the effect, so I'm going to do it. I just dry brushed this guy. So these aren't very black anymore, but they have a lot of highlights and shading. And so in another video, what I would do is I'm going to go in and actually paint some of these blacks back in. This is a very so detailed model that it's difficult to paint back in some of these details. So maybe I'll just do a simple armor wash to try to make the model a little darker. I kind of like it as it is, but I definitely want to get some of that black back in, and that's a pitfall you can fall into when you are dry brushing, is that you can take, like, if you're starting with something that's a very dark in color and you dry brush it too much, it almost becomes like, this almost looks like a gray instead of a black, although it's kind of looking like a black. But black works very well with dry brushing. It really can show you those effects. As far as, oh, let's get back to this guy. Okay, here he is. Okay, let me clean my brush. My brush needs to be clean. Now, my brush, I cleaned, well, I put it in water. Okay, let's try it. So here I've got my light brown here. Let's see. Okay. Okay, good. You may not go dry brush all the way down. Ooh, I got a lot there. You may not go all the way down. Like if it's a light source, he's going to be lighter on top. I might want to get the top of his feet though. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, the problem with this color is it was subtle. It was a subtle effect. So let me add a little bit of, oh boy, I don't know what to mix. I'm going for this one. Okay, here we go. So what is this? Hammerfell khaki. This is not exactly the color I want. It's more of a neutral, but I'm hoping this neutral, it's a lighter, not much lighter. It's more of a neutral, like a gray. But I'm hoping it will mix in with the pre-existing kind of orange-brown that I already have. So let's try it here. I'm going to wipe it off. It's mixing in a little bit with that orange-brown. That's okay. Let's see what I'm going to start on his back in case it's terrible. Yeah, it's okay. It's really a neutral. Let's do it. So I mean, technically, I should have gone with maybe a more saturated color. I mean, this is nice because things aren't super saturated in the real world, right? Like he might be, you know, it really tones down that orange. We'll compare him with that last one I just did. Let's see. I kind of like the effect. Feels a little more natural when it's not super bright. Like old school Games Workshop painting method was like super bright and saturated. But lately, you know, things are kind of more natural, meaning non-bright colors, maybe more dirty colors, neutral colors. Okay, let's compare them. I'm gonna get a little on his feet. Okay, let's compare. Looking at my camera. I like it, but it doesn't follow the reference material. The reference material is he's very warm in color. So that's not very warm. I mean, maybe I could have maybe mixed a little bit of yellow in there. But I think it's all right. It looks pretty good. The nice thing about dry brushing, I mean, I can keep dry brushing. I could dry brush a highlight color on him. But that's it. Dry brushing is great. It works really well. Here I've shown you this last time. I just dry brushed a light, sprayed it black. I dusted it on top. I sprayed it on top with like a tan or a neutral. And I dry brushed some white on it. And it really kind of has a nice weathered effect. I can still go back in and add washes. But that dry brush, it looks nice. It looks kind of natural and dirty. Looks like a light source. It's light on top. It's almost like I need to go back and add the darks. But I think that's okay. And then this, I'm pretty pleased with this effect. So, but you've seen this. Basically, I just dry brushed it over black. So it was over black. And, but that's it. So dry brushing is a very common technique. Don't forget, if you haven't done it before, you're going to get a little bit of paint. You're going to wipe it off. You're going to wipe it off, and then you're going to dust it. You're just going to kind of brush it on, and then you might create a lighter color and brush that on. You know, if you do more than, you could probably do a third color, but if you do more than 2 colors of dry brushing, you kind of lose it. This guy, I might be able to dry brush a lighter color on him, but you don't want to keep dry brushing like more than 3 colors is a lot. Probably what I would do is I'd probably go in and I'd actually paint highlights then. Maybe put a wash, then maybe dry brush a little bit and then paint in some highlights. But it is a process. Dry brushing, washes. Sometimes your washes remove some of the effect of your dry brush and then you have to dry brush it again. But eventually you'll come to a nice look that is something that you're looking for, you know, that you're pleased with. So I'm kind of pleased with him. But anyways, I'll show you. So let's see. The next video is going to be washes, and I'll put some washes on those guys, and we'll experiment. And then we'll have a video on filling in. So like I fill in the black. It'll be edging. It'll be you know, I'll probably call it filling in, and then I'll have like a legitimate edging video where I do a little bit of edging, but then I do this technique too. So, but that's it for dry brushing. I hope that was informative. You could dry brush everything. I usually combine lots of different techniques. Like, so this model, I did washes, right, for her pants. But, you know, after I paint her, I might dry brush a little bit of a highlight just over everything. And then I might go in and add some washes or paint some dark spots again. So I usually combine everything. And you'll discover what you need as you're painting. If it's too dark, you might dry brush a lighter color. If it's too light, you might paint in some shadows with a wash. So, and then, you know, vice versa. So, but anyways, That's it for today. So I'll see you next time for the next video. Talk to you later. Bye.